Take two. We were 10 minutes into our last conversation, our last recording, and I looked at the bottom of the screen and it wasn't recording. So I'm going to start again, and I'm going to say hello and thank you, Phil, Evie and Nick, for being here. Phil, Evie and Nick, I met actually in Dubai at a Dr. Joe retreat, actually January this year. So it feels like a long time ago that I met you because of what I have experienced as a result of the work that I've done with you. But it isn't. It's actually only, what, a month since we've been back. So I was told about Phil, Nick and Evie when I was on a meditation. I was walking to do a walking meditation, Dr. Joe, on this retreat. And a friend of mine who was a volunteer of my team pulled me up at the lights. She's like, you've got to see this triad of quantum practitioners. They're Australian. Like, how lucky are you? Because she's Canadian. She's like, you've got them at your fingertips. I'm like, okay. Let me do my walking meditation. When I came back, she connected me with Phil, and I realised when I met Phil, I'm like, oh, we were at a workshop. Of course we were. In November back in Melbourne. Long story short, I had a session with them in Dubai during the retreat, and it was transformational. We're going to talk in a bit about what actually transformation is, because it was a very powerful transformational session. And as a result, everything changed between myself and my youngest son. And when I returned to Melbourne, our relationship it's just not the same. Then I had another session on Saturday, and we can talk about that if there's time. But my whole state of being was liberated. And the woman that's sitting here, and we were talking about it just before pressing record, this woman sitting here is actually sitting here as a 48-year-old woman, as opposed to the teenager that arrived at this session that was carrying a whole lot of things that I was so unconscious about. And this is what I love about this, about working with energy in the quantum, is we just access, or you guys access, things that I'm not aware of in order to actually transform so that we can be our greatest selves, that we can actually reach our potential, because we can't reach our potential from the level of thinking in which we've been existing in. So I haven't shared. Phil's a chiropractor. Nick is the medical intuitive, and I'd never met a medical intuitive, and wow, Nick's intuition is out of control, as you all are, as is Evie's. So Evie is an energy healer and a whole host of, in fact, so I was sharing with them, I printed out all the things that I was going to go through, for those of you who are watching that care about, there is a whole host of other things to justify how incredible these people are. But I'm not going to go through them, because I think really you just need to hear what they have to share. And if this resonates, we'll share at the end of the call how you can connect with them, how you can work with them, what session, because they do come to Melbourne and work together. Well, they're coming back in a fortnight, but you're probably already fully booked, I'm imagining. Anyway, over to you. I'd love you to share how you guys came to work together.
Sure. Are you girls? You're okay if I start?
Yep, take it, Phil. Yep.
So I met Nick and Evie back in October 18. I was attending a Dr. Joe week-long meditation workshop, just as you were saying about Dubai. And one of the things that I went along to that particular workshop wanting to do was to find people who, what I called, were doing the work, were working on themselves, were endeavoring to become the greatest representation of themselves. And what happened on the very first day, we were all in teams, and there was this massive lineup for the front door to get in. So evidently I've kind of turned up and gone, wow, I didn't expect this. And there was like 600 or 700 people at the event. And I was in a team purple, and I actually changed my beard up. So my goatee and beard was purple. I was embodying being part of the team. And I'm looking around, and I saw a couple of purple lanyards at the front of, right in front of the door. And my style in the past has been to not like to wait in crowds. So I went up and introduced myself. And basically, because if I went up and introduced myself, I was also then going to be standing at the front of the crowd, in front of the doors. So that was my reason for doing it. And literally in the last 18 months, we've been, like, we met on that first day, we've been inseparable. There was an instantaneous click.
So
And
Nick and Evie were the two people
yeah,
that...
Nick and Evie were the two standing at the front of the door. And so literally, Nick, how do you describe it? You said that...
Oh, well, Evie and I, we actually didn't get in on the first round of the dispenser that week. So we got in on a wait list and were notified 2 weeks before going there. So we actually hooked up my caravan and drove from Melbourne to Queensland to get there. And the two of us, we've been best friends for a long time, and having the opportunity to do a week-long event with something we love, that's what we were heading for. Both of us are very much in terms of liking to have our own space and being first in line to be able to choose wherever we want to choose. So we'd gotten there earlier and we're chatting to the people around us, and all of us, we had like the purple lanyards. I think I had a purple hat, maybe had a big purple boa on. So we were very much embodying that purpleness. And all of a sudden, Phil turns up and started talking to us. And at the time, I think we said, you're just wanting to get to the front of the line. But even in that space, we kind of connected and said, we'll catch up, and went our own ways. But throughout that week, we just kept finding ourselves sitting next to each other. And kind of, really we were talking every day after that. We were connecting. One of the things that Phil had said, which I think was why Evie and I went, was to meet other people that are doing the same thing that we are, in embodying where we want to go. And one of Phil's comments was people who are like vibrating at the same level or higher, to be able to just to expand our tribe. And that's exactly what happened in that. So we were talking pretty much every day on Messenger, and then all of a sudden we kind of said, well, why don't you come to Melbourne and we can just kind of hang out and see what's happening. And at the time, Evie and I had been doing a bit of work, like with the two of us, with clients. So this one particular, when Phil first came down, we had a client that was going through some stuff, and we said, well, why don't we give it a go? We knew that he was a chiropractor, had been doing other work, had the kinesiology, and he basically came just to have a look at what we were doing, and the session just skyrocketed from there. We felt this energy flow, and the profound shifts in that moment for that client was amazing. And ever since then, it was,
The irony is that I had never really looked at the work that I was doing before going to that workshop in October 18 as energetic work. I saw myself as a chiropractor who did a lot of physical work, also played around with quite a lot of emotional things for clients. I thought I was a fairly well-rounded practitioner. But what was really interesting is in starting to work with Nick and Evie and the work that they've been doing, there's been so many things that I've had to get out of my own analytical brain's way, because I'm getting things show up that are absolutely spot on and relevant for the clients that we're working with. And the girls are smiling because there's this constant thing that still happens for me from time to time, where I have to almost like let my analytical brain go in order to let that flow come through. And when that actually happens, the sessions just have gone absolutely crazy. Like the changes that we're getting with clients and the things that are coming out of, especially my mouth, like afterwards, the girls will say, wow, that was amazing. And I kind of go, I don't even know what I said. And so it's been a real eye-opening experience for me, 32 years in practice, and all of a sudden I'm doing work that is completely different from what I was doing 18 months ago. So your comment about you being different in the last 6 days, I am not the same person I was 18 months ago by any means.
Yeah, same.
So it's, I can sit here and I can try and I can attempt to describe to those people that are watching what I experienced as far as what goes on between the three of you, but I would love you to share, like, what are your roles within that? Is it even possible? And I don't want to take away from the magic, because the word magic comes to mind when I think about what I experienced both times in the room with you and what I've experienced as a result of the session. But can you give some insights into those people that are watching that need to know? You know, some people need to know. Like, what is that? What is it that you're doing? When, you know, obviously having 3 people's attention, energy, focus on one being at one time, it's not standard. In fact, funnily enough, I don't think I've shared it with you, but when I was studying kinesiology, bring me back. Can you bring me back? Because I like to go on tangents. One of the things that I did when I finished studying kinesiology, and my best friend also was studying kinesiology, he was like, wow, imagine if we worked in tandem, having 2 people working on one person, but the 3 of you not as the same types of practitioners. To say it's complementary it feels not enough. But can I hand it over to you? Can I get you to share what roles that you play individually in a transformational session?
Cool. Evie, you know how we do the explanation at the beginning of a session?
That's what I was going to say.
Evie's got a great explanation for how our sessions start, and then that'll help us flow into where we go from there.
We obviously there's three of us in a session. There's 3 physical beings, but in a session we're operating as one consciousness. Okay, so what comes through may look like 3 individuals, but it's actually coming from the one place. So our roles often are interchangeable throughout the session. One may be talking, one may be doing this, one may be doing that, but it's very seamless, as you said, Lisa. It's very challenging to describe how it actually flows. It's quite a unique experience. So we often start our sessions with asking the client what their intention is, what drew them to come and see us. And for some, they're very, very clear on what that is. And for others, it's that they would just like to be open to the experience. So that's our starting place. And from there, it's very much it's again, Lisa, you're probably the best person to describe your experience, but in terms of what we're doing, we're not attached to where the session is going to get to. However, we are so certain that we know that when we get to the end, the session's complete and there is transformation that's taken place. We're very much guided with that, and it's a very fluid process that takes us and the client on the journey through the session.
And one of the things that in some cases I normally talk about at that point is, like, from an intent, what we're doing is our intent is to create transformation. Part of the model that we use for that is that there is this flow of energy that happens through a person's system. And the greater the flow through their system, the greater the energy field is around their body. And the greater the energy available for things like healing, things like connection or mystical experiences, there's greater energy available. So one of the things that I would say to a client when Evie will give that explanation, and then we'll basically go into if we can make sure that the person or the client has the greatest flow through them. So they're not trying to hold on to that energy inside them. It's just meant to flow through them. When that happens, if there's any blockage or anything that's stopping that flow from happening, we have ways of actually accessing what that is and then helping that shift or transform. In the process of that happening, we create greater flow for them. And that's where I think the experiences are so profound, is that not only is that if there was a blockage that was stopping the person from experiencing life the way they wanted to, it not only helps remove that, but it also increases, so it's actually greater than they even expected. So there's a saying that, in fact, we actually got this saying from that same Canadian volunteer, is that our experience of a session is that it usually ends up being greater than the client could even imagine, greater than we could imagine. And that's the intent that we come in with.
Something that was just when I was listening to that, you were talking about, increasing the flow of energy, because something we were talking about just before the call was, having been on this journey, as a lot of us have been for a period of time, different amounts of time. But I feel like for the first decade of this journey for me, it was still coming from the level of mind. I was still trying to work things out from my analytical mind, make sense of things, come to peace with things, be compassionate to others, be forgiving. I mean, it was all very relevant, but it wasn't transformational, because I was still coming from a place of resolving things that I thought I needed to fix. but I didn't get that. And it was only when I was introduced to Joe's work, I mean, he'd been kind of floating around, but I was also at that retreat, which, have we talked about that? I was at the retreat where you met.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that was my first retreat, October 18.
Yeah.
October 18, yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would have seen you. I mean, there is a lot of people, mind you. But when I did that retreat, and ever since then, I understand now that there is nothing, that I don't need to ask the same questions. I don't need to analyse things, try to make sense of things. In fact, that's what keeps me anchored to the past and keeps me rewired and reliving the very things that I want to liberate myself from.
Yeah.
So when I come back to what you were saying, Evie, about the sessions and what I've experienced, what I love is that I'm not going there to work anything out.
No.
I'm not going there to try and explain or make sense or go back and rehash, or that analytical mind is not part of the session, and that's where liberation occurs. That's where true transformation happens, when we're not coming from the analytical, trying to make sense of things, trying to fix, trying to heal. This is healing. So when you talk about healing, Phil, to me, this form of healing is healing our energetics.
Yeah.
In order to be our greatest potential.
We don't, very seldom would we ever use the word healing. And Nick, do you want to, like, that whole, really early on, we decided that what we were doing, we wanted
transformational.
Yeah.
It's transformational in the sense as without having your own energy flow, then the healing can't actually occur. And we believe in terms of that, we just hold the space for your system to create whatever it needs to create. So that whole thing of we're holding an energy space. Yes, we've got tools. Yes, we get in and find those little bits that are blocking things. But the main part of it is that the client is actually the one that's doing the transformation themselves, which then frees up the energy for their own body to do whatever it needs to do. Because we also believe that the body is a self-healing, self-regulating mechanism, and we just need to get out of the way. So that's our main way that we do things.
And as you saw, Lisa, it just naturally unfolds. It's not that you need to go there and have a clear intention about what you need to unpack or what you need to pull apart. It naturally unfolds in the session and almost comes up like a cup with sediment in the bottom. The more that we're supporting the client to shift their energy, release anything that might be not allowing the greatest amount of flow, what needs to come up comes up. And it's quite, as you would have experienced, it's effortless. It just happens, it unfolds. And for clients, it's very liberating because they could have had decades of feeling that they've had trauma or they've had things that they need to really pull apart and get a greater understanding that they're destined to hang on to for the rest of their lives. And in that one moment is all it takes to actually shift their whole system and just everything to start to actually unravel and transform. And it's so profound to be part of that and to be in that space to allow that to actually take place. It's beautiful.
And we feel it in the room as well. Like when it happens.
Feel it now.
Now we feel it in the room, and that's beautiful. Like it's incredible. We even, like, you'll have a client who, if they've done a lot of work in the past, we almost get into, they're coming in with this story about why things are the way they are in their life. And one of the comments that we make to people is that the actual backstory or what actually happened sometimes is useful from a contextual point of view, but it's not necessary in order for them to create change. If they're coming from the space that they want to change it up, absolutely possible to do it without having to get into all of the content of what's gone on and who's done what or whatever. Basically, it comes down to, if they want to change something up and we can, and they're able to get to a point where they have that awareness and they can articulate what it is they want to change, from there, it's really easy for us to, the session seems to evolve, but the transformation and the manifestation occur from there. So that's a saying that we use quite a lot with clients, is the first step is awareness. So actually having an awareness of what it is that's either going on or what it is that they feel they want to see show up or have show up differently for them. Once they can do that, if we can help them get to a point where they can articulate that, things shift up really, really quickly. So it's been a beautiful process to watch and to be part of, to be honest.
You know, after I had my session at the end of my session last week, and and I'll never forget, you know, I was...
Neither will we.
I was so dumbfounded by what it was like. It was there, it was always there, but I hadn't ever seen it. And maybe I really probably should share a very quick, because it will illustrate a lot of the things that we've just talked about. But what I want to say, just speaking to that and speaking to what you've all been sharing about how much you love, like I can see how much you love your work, and that you can't put a value on that, because you know, that whole idea that I felt in a way that I was giving, which is weird, as a client, I was giving to you, you were giving to me, but I was giving to you in my liberation. So when I finished this session, it was just like, and it was effortless. Like I think Evie, you were saying it was effortless. There's no, I don't come into the session thinking, oh my God, you know, which I used to. And I know a lot of people that go and see healers, they're like, oh, you know, I feel so exhausted after it, and this and that, and I had to dredge this up. There's none of that. It's so, you do it with such, I love these words, but do it with such ease and grace. It is, you know, it's profound from that level as well, because there's no efforting at all. You know, I showed up and I gave you an intent. But I just want to just share with you. So after I'd had this experience, I put my hands on this massage table, the bed that I've been sitting on. I can't even remember now. It's gone. I'm not the same person. And I was just like looking at the three of you, looking around, and Evie, you had, I know Evie, you had your eyes closed with your hand on your heart. Just the energy, the feeling in the room from all four of us, because it felt like we'd done it together. The space that you guys hold is, I'm going to get emotional. It's so beautiful. I was like, before I was thinking, it feels like there's a warm blanket. I feel like that you hold that, like there's a warm blanket around me for me, it's like processing. But it is really done with ease and grace. I mean, at one point in both sessions, I had 6 hands on me. Oh my God. And this stuff would come up in both sessions, and I was in a heightened state of emotion, and it just dissipated. And it was not like, oh, you know, they're comforting me to, you know, it's okay, darling. But it was like, it was gone. It was whatever came up, it came up, and I was liberated from it. So I just wanted to speak to that, because, you know, as 3 human beings doing this work, it's a really powerful thing when you can hold space for people to feel so safe, so loved, so supported, so empowered, happy. I enjoy seeing the 3 of you. Okay. So let me just share very quickly about what happened this last session. I came with an intent, and I only said the intent really when I got into the room. I'm like, oh, my intent is it's time to grow up. I'd been in a relationship. It was showing, I'd broken up with him, and it was showing up that I just was feeling like, I still feel like I'm a teenager at times. That was my intent. That's all I gave. And so the way the sessions have been with me is that Phil then takes me through a process of, or takes the body through a process, muscle testing, to identify what's going on, and just, it's kind of like layers. We just keep going. It's like until we get, it's like going down a rabbit hole, isn't it? Until you get an answer, and then it's clearing, and then clearing. What came out at the end of this session was profound, because the word irresponsible came up, and they said, speak to me about that. And I was saying, you know, everyone thinks I'm irresponsible. They took me back, age recessed to an age. I was a teenager. I was 13. I felt like a 13-year-old. I'd always felt like no one actually trusted me. Everyone thought that I was irresponsible. You know, as I said, I was the girl that got thrown out of 2 of the best girls' schools in Melbourne, and people were like, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? What was, you know, why were you so unhappy? And then ever since then, irresponsible with money, irresponsible with alcohol, irresponsible with giving my body away as a teenage girl, irresponsible, the list goes on, irresponsible with creating the life and doing what I'm here to do, which has impacted, look at me, it has been a massive, I mean, I'm 48 and I'm like looking around going, why am I not doing what I'm here to do? So what came out was that I had taken on this belief that I'm irresponsible, but what I was actually doing was being responsible and expressing the pain and stuff that was going on, which a lot of kids do, but we don't know why we're doing it. And of course, I didn't know that what I was doing is I was being responsible and taking and communicating and expressing the pain that my family was unable to express. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I am responsible. What the hell? I am the responsible one. And for all these years, I've been feeling irresponsible. And there was nothing to do. There was nothing to change. There was nothing to balance out. There was nothing to talk through. It was gone. My body was liberated from the energy, from this belief that I had taken on that I was irresponsible. Now, what has occurred since then is, and I'm going to share just briefly with you because I can't tell you what I'm getting through work-wise. I cannot tell you the productivity that has occurred for me in the last 5 days. I cannot tell you how clear my vision is as to where I'm going. I cannot. The responsibility I'm showing within my relationship as a role as mum, I have chosen to connect back with the man that I'd broken up with. I've never done that in 48 years, and I've done it as an adult, a 48-year-old woman. This is all in 6 days. I'm like, wow, okay. I really want people that are watching to get this, that this is what can happen within the space. It wasn't even an hour. It was like 50 minutes.
Yeah. If you think about it though, Lisa, is like, even in this conversation that we've had so far, there's been 3 or 4 times, and I don't know if you felt it, but the hair has literally gone up on my neck, on my arms. That is the energy that, and like all 4 of us would have felt it. Like I know for a fact, Nick and Edie, when this stuff happens in a session, we get it. Okay. Yeah. And anyone watching will get that. Okay. It's like watching a really good movie and there's a connection that somebody gets from, and you get moved by it because you actually feel it. For me, it's like 10 times stronger than anything I've ever watched. Because it's happening, it's not happening out there, it's actually happening all around us. We literally had times in the room where we are like, the energy almost blows us back from the person or in the room because of the energy that they're liberating. So anyone watching, it's already feeling it. I've felt it 3 or 4 times myself already.
I've got it right through. It always comes through my hands, always through my hands, like right now. Talk to me about, so when we talk about energy, one of the things that blocks our energy is emotions.
Yeah.
Stuck emotions.
Stuck emotions, that's right. Speak to that. Can we talk about that and what happens when that is liberated?
Okay. So from that, so energy in motion is emotions.
Yeah.
So basically, as long as an emotion is moving, it's really healthy. It's exactly what it's meant to do. There's no good, there's no bad, there's nothing in terms of except what we label it. So anger can be just as liberating as joy and happiness. It's when it gets stuck in the body. So when we suppress or when we hold on to it or something happens and we shut it down, it'll go to certain parts of the body to be stored to then be processed later on. The main problem or the main issue is that a lot of us in society are taught that we're not to express this particular emotion, or it's bad to do this, or we never get around to actually looking at why we felt that emotion or even letting it up and out. So as we do that when we're growing up, things get stuck within the body, and that's when the body will be trying to tell us and tell us and tell us and whisper, and it gets louder and louder and louder until we finally listen to it, and it turns into a dis-ease or a symptom or a something. So the more that we can release those energies that are stuck within our body, the more energy, as Phil was saying before, the more energy we have to do anything else with it, because it's flowing through us, not being held.
So just speaking to that, how would somebody know if they've got a stuck emotion? What and how in the physical world, how do they?
Evie, you want me to do?
Yeah, no, go, and I'll add in, Phil. I'll add in.
So what I would say sometimes to even my clients within my practice is, do you know anyone in your family that does one particular emotion more than another? So you might have somebody in the family who does sadness. It's the only thing they seem to do. Or they do anger. So as they may have a particular default emotion that they go to. Normally when that happens, it's because they've not necessarily expressed it completely in the past. And so that's the one that it's still there within them. So it takes almost nothing for them to then get triggered. So something that to anyone else might have it wouldn't have caused them to be angry. It's like or like the person will be in traffic and all of a sudden they just get angry, right? And this traffic happens. Some people don't get triggered by that at all. Other people do. So one of the things I look for is a person's ability to only express one particular emotion. That's a giveaway sign. And the other one is sometimes not being able to express emotion at all. Okay, so
that's interesting. We're going to talk about that.
That happens a lot. Like sometimes some event or something has happened in the person's past, and they've been hurt by that. And then what they've basically done is they've gone, that hurt too much. I don't want to do that again. And so they're actually very much, they're in their head. They're living in their head. They're not living in their heart. And it's not that one is better than the other. It's the ability to be in both. It becomes this is a great space, the heart space, and living and experiencing the emotion is fantastic. But if you go with the model that thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, both of them are equally important. Okay, and from our point of view, we constantly think, like the model that we would say is we're constantly thinking anyway, and we're constantly putting those thoughts out there. From an energetic point, we're putting them out there, and whatever we're feeling is what we draw back to us. So if we have a shitty thought or a crappy thought, we then bring that back to us. And there's that saying that if you're pissed off, for want of a better way of putting it, if you get pissed off with somebody else, it's because you're pissed off with yourself. If you're angry at somebody else, it's because there's already anger inside of you. And so having a person become aware of that is really helpful for them to then start to move through the process of changing it up. Would you add, Evie?
And I guess on a different angle is that not everyone comes because they think that there's emotions stuck or blocked. Some come because they want to expand their business or their finances. Some come because they want to have greater connection, or they want to take themselves to the next level in their career, or something that they really enjoy doing. So it's not sometimes the actual core reason that they come. And within the process of actually working on that particular area, because we do work with people in businesses who have targets and they have goals that they want to set with, we can start with that aspect of working through that area with them. And then what can sometimes be uncovered is what's in the way of them going beyond that point is a stored emotion or is a stored old belief that's no longer serving them. So we are able to unravel that again very seamlessly without having to go into all the mechanics of it, to be able to liberate that, expand that, and then have them go beyond that potential of where they feel that cap's been or they've been stuck. So people do come for many different reasons. One, A, there could be emotions that are stuck, or they may not be feeling that they can express themselves, and B, they may just want to expand their life. They're feeling that they kind of hit a ceiling point, and what else? What else is there for me? Where else can I go from this place? So I don't know if I've answered that question or not, but it's magic because there's many reasons for people to come, and there's many areas that they can expand in. And sometimes that particular area, say we have someone that's coming from a business perspective, not only does their business expand, but their connection with self does, their connection with others does, and all of a sudden they're sitting there going, wow, I cannot believe what's just opened up for me purely because I came in here looking for how to expand my business. So they get that plus more.
Which is perfect because I was thinking only this morning, I feel that, I'm coming, as we know, coming back for another session. There's always more to liberate from, and I'm here to be my greatest, live my greatest potential. But what I was thinking speaks directly to what you were sharing, Evie, is that now I'm ready to really step up into the world. And so whatever is standing in the way, i.e. whatever energetics are standing in the way, whatever emotions that would keep me not believing that whatever I would want to create is possible, they will come up. Yeah. But not because I'm going, oh, I have the emotion of da-da-da, and we need to clear that. I get that.
And I guess we use the analogy, it's a bit like weeding the garden. Yes, there's areas you want to work in, but let's do some cleaning up, let's do some maintenance on what's there, and then when that's done, let's expand from there. Let's keep expanding. We have clients that come back and back because they want to keep expanding past where they've left off. What's next? So yeah.
It changes up though as well as we move forward, because there's almost like a new level of responsibility or a new language that when we're talking with clients, that it's definitely not the same stuff. Like there has not been a single person that's come to us that we've seen again where what we've already done hasn't stayed changed. So one of the analogies that we've used in the past is it's like upgrading a smartphone. If the software for the smartphone is upgraded, it's changed, okay? It's not like you go back to the old operating system. It's a completely new operating system. And in the process of somebody coming back for another session, sometimes it's not only what they work on, but we actually show them how much of this they're the ones creating the change, not us. So in the process of having those sessions, it's also showing them how they can start to manage that system for themselves. And then the reason that they're coming back is they want to learn how to manage it even better. And they want to tweak something, or they're going, okay, I feel like I've mastered this area. I'm still noticing things here. What would I do there? And so the sessions have evolved as we've gone. In fact, we've had people who've seen us 6 months ago and then come back for another session and they're like, okay, so that was totally different.
Moving very quickly, Lisa, where the changes that are coming through in the transformation in our session is we have to sometimes let go and surrender to how it used to be because it's moving so fast and so rapidly. So we're having to continue to do the work ourselves and keep unfolding and surrendering and allowing ourselves to receive what's coming in for the client, because there's so much transformation going on, not only for us but for others. So yes, we're learning also in the process.
And you know what, when you say that, Evie, it makes me think about, we've all done numerous Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats now, and what happens is it feels like things are quickening, like it's exponential. The transformations, the community is becoming more coherent. And so that doesn't surprise me that your work is the transformations are, for want of a better word, speeding up. What happened for me, I can't say. I mean, I could have spent, I don't know how long. And as I said to you at the start of the call, I think what I'm not taking away from Joe, I love Joe Dispenza, but not taking away from him, but what I experienced in that session with you has completely changed. Well, I would say, as we were talking about earlier, I am biologically upgraded. So can we just speak to that? So just before we finish, I want to speak about biological upgrade, and then I want to share, want people to know how they can get in contact with you. So I'm currently experiencing a biological upgrade. I messaged these three this morning. I'm like, I'm actually not feeling good, and I'm normally feeling healthy and feels like, oh, biological upgrade. Okay, so who would like to speak to that? Because Joe talked about it.
I'm looking at Nick because I'm going to have to. You're welcome.
Is it
tapping you in there.
fairly short, concise answer, or is it something we need to talk about at length?
No, a short, concise answer. It would be as your system, because basically, if you've got energy all around you, and from the model that, well, the medical intuitive model and the model that we're using is that everything starts in the energy field first, and then it moves into the physical, into the 3D realm, which is the more denser matter of the energy. So basically, if you've had an energetic upgrade and your system upgrade, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the body needs to process to get to that point. So biological upgrade could be simply the body catching up with the energy system. And whether that means that all of a sudden you might get a bit like nasally or sinusy or something. And then it's just basically knowing, okay, cool, that's what's happening, and allowing things just to be and flow, and you find that things just shift and move, and all of a sudden you go, oh, okay, now I'm feeling great again. It's just allowing the body to catch up to the whole spiritual, energetic system.
Which I know when I went to my first retreat, people start coughing on day 3.
Yep.
half the conference room is coughing, and then that's when Joe's talking about the fact that a number of us are experiencing a biological upgrade, and so now when you go and you're experiencing it at a retreat, you're like, yes, I'm biologically upgrading.
The one other thing I would add to that, if you go back to that, the analogy before about saying like it's upgrading the operating system on your phone, while your operating system is being upgraded, there's not a lot you can do with the phone. So like sometimes you plug it in and the software is being updated, but you can't use your phone, right? And then even after the upgrade, sometimes the apps on your smartphone have to upgrade as well. So it's almost like now you have a phone that you can make a phone call on again, but the apps behind it still are going through the process of, okay, there's been a new system upgrade. We now have to upgrade ourselves. And so things go through a process of changing. The reason I use that as an analogy is because it is different afterwards. And we'll literally have clients say, I can't even think the same way about that topic. I can't even relate to how I used to think about it. And there's even been times where I used to say, I use the analogy about myself is that if I wanted to feel a particular emotion in my body in the past, there were certain people that I would hang out with to feel that emotion. If I wanted to feel guilt, I'd hang out with a certain person. If I wanted to feel resentment or low self-esteem, I had somebody else that I would pick. And what's in the process of all of this upgrade taking place, when we were explaining this to somebody, I was going, I can't even remember what the emotion was that I used. I remember the person, but I can't remember the emotion that I used to go to them for. And so it's almost like that software is gone. And giving your body the opportunity to catch up to your software, for want of a better way of putting it, is basically what's happening.
And that also comes back to what we like to bring forward of self-love and nurturing practices. It means that you take the opportunity to take some time to rest, to nurture, to hydrate, to all the things that are going to support your system and create more self-love.
I've had my drinking lots of water. I have been doing all of that, and I'm totally, and so just to finish off, so in layman's terms, a biological upgrade, essentially, we are no longer the same person.
No.
Yeah.
So, Joe talks about essentially it's a change in personality.
Yeah.
Which is so incredible. So when people say, I'm just like that, or that's the way I am, it's like, I can't even listen to that anymore without going, oh, do I need to start going down that conversation and sharing with them? Or, hey, you know what, we can change. We don't always have to be that way.
I think if we show up as having shifted, we are the greatest representation of what we do. So in other words, I guess when I first got into the work, I was wanting to tell people about it. And what now has happened is we just embody it. And we literally have had clients walk into their house and another person look at them and go, what did you just do? And then we get a phone call 15 minutes later going, I want what they did. It doesn't matter. Just book me a time. I don't care.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty.
And so as I'm listening, I'm like, okay, I know I'm sharing you with the world, but I'm going to make sure you guys know that I'm not going to be forgotten. You can fit me in somehow.
Okay, got it. Love it.
So
Special place for you.
yeah, on that note, I'd love you just to share with the people that are watching, how can they get in contact with you? When are you next in Melbourne? And they can also, as I know, they can connect with you on Zoom. You're doing sessions on Zoom. So how can they get in contact with you?
Sure.
Our website is beyondtheway.org. So all of our information's on there. You can contact through the contact numbers on that. We have a process being set up in terms of being able to book online, but at the moment it's contact us and we'll let you know the dates and times that's still available.
Most of it's word of mouth too at the moment, which has been brilliant. We're running sessions Sydney, Melbourne, and the Gold Coast now, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think find out about dates and things. They use the website and they do use contact us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Contact us, and in the short period of time there'll be updates on the website soon as well. And as we said, we do sessions remotely. We do them overseas. So it's not an issue of where people live. The feedback we've had from the clients who've had remote sessions is it's been probably the most profound experience that they've had. So it's even changed. We knew it was an amazing experience, but it's also shifted our own beliefs about how powerful it can be remotely. We love physically being able to connect with people and obviously giving them a physical hug at the end of the session. But it's not a requirement to physically be with us to have a session and to have that transformation experience.
Amazing. For people to be able to access you from anywhere. Workshops. Are you running workshops? Is that where? Do we know when the next one is? I'm keen.
Yes.
I really want to share that.
Well, what we've done is, at the moment, one of the things we realised is that model of 3-on-1 at the moment meant that there was only a certain number of people that we could see. What we've also noticed is that even though every session is different, there's certain themes that have come through the sessions that what we then did is we actually created, at the moment it's a 1-day workshop, which will probably change to a 2-day workshop given the amount of content. Yeah. We've actually worked out how could we teach that information to people who they've either had a session with us or they're having sessions, but they want to be able to take it home and unpack it for themselves. So we've created a platform where we do that. And at the moment we're running them about once a quarter on the Gold Coast, once a quarter in Melbourne, and literally there'll be something that happens throughout the year. So we're running workshops probably 4 to 5 times a year on the Gold Coast, Melbourne, and Sydney over the next 12 months. Next dates in Melbourne for workshops. We've just had those dates go past. The next one is on early May, but that'll be on our website.
When
will that be on? Because I looked this morning.
We're actually with that. It's like almost like our quarterly. We're releasing each quarter.
Okay.
So yeah, that will be up soon.
Keeping up with the upgrades, Lisa, we've had to change our processes as well.
Yes.
And not only that is even though, we'd actually set up what was going to happen for the whole year, but because of our experience in Dubai, it's gone from us literally working on the east coast of Australia to us working globally. So the second half of our year, we're not even sure how much of that will actually be in Australia.
Okay, well that's cool. That's exciting. Say what next, but there we go. You've just told me what next.
Cool. Fantastic.
I'm mindful of time, but I just want to say thank you so much. I absolutely love the three of you, even more having had this conversation. And I love the fact that I've been able to share you and what you're doing in the world, because as I said, there's no one actually doing what you're doing that I'm aware of. Yeah. And I have tried a lot of things, as a lot of people that watching know that I have spent years, sourcing different things. And you guys are the real deal. And if you want to experience transformation, like seriously, you just don't look past these three. Like it's Nick, Evie and Phil all the way. So I actually feel like you're part of my team now. Like, this is part of my team. Yeah. They're gonna move me along now.
No, we'll hold the space and you move you along.
Yeah, true. Really good distinction. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's been great talking. Thank you.
Thanks for
So much for being here. I love you all. We will
Thank you.
connect. I'll be seeing you very soon.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.